Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there to my actual left, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing well today. It's a good week or so to be a Red Sox fan. I will tell you that 6-game winning streak. I was not ready for a 4-game sweep of the Blue Jays at all, as I mentioned on this show on Monday. But I promise we're not going to spend that much time on the Red Sox today.
Yeah, no.
We got some other topics to get into.
Yeah, we got some other topics to get into, but yeah, and it's not like even the Blue Jays were going in the wrong direction. They were also hot,
Yeah.
and then just a random little four-game sweep of the Blue Jays. Who knew that would happen?
Exactly. No, it was crazy. Seeing everyone step up has been weird. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like they're developing players consistently this year. Like Connor Wong looks good, Emmanuel Valdez looks good, Jarren Duran looks good, Yoshida looks insane.
Yeah. Lots of like good hitters hitting the ball, where they need to be at the hitting the ball hard too. I don't know what the team strikeout rate is at, but I imagine that's lower than normal. But yeah, it's cool. It's we kind of talked about, we prefaced this earlier this week talking about the AL East, but the Red Sox they're no matter where they are this year, they're going to be fun to watch, and that's kind of what we've seen. They may be extremely frustrating at times, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah. A team that hasn't been fun to watch this season has been the St. Louis Cardinals. They are currently 10-22 after suffering a sweep at home to the Angels. They're 10-22. They have the worst record in the National League, and let me tell you, Chris, it's the starting pitching. No doubt about it. We've memed on the Cardinals starting pitching for many years on this show about how they have the most unconventional way of getting it done. And now they just have an unconventional way that doesn't get it done. They are 24th in FWAR in the league, 1.41 home runs per 9 as a staff. That's pretty bad. Jordan Montgomery has 1.2 FWAR. The whole team combined, including Jordan Montgomery, has 1.0 FWAR.
Yeah.
Jordan Montgomery makes up 120% of the team's FWAR. They're the rotation's F4. They've only gone with the same 5 starters the whole year, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked.
Right. It's their rotation is interesting. Heading into the year, I knew it would be interesting. Very very low strikeout rate is the most significant thing about them. No one that you're going to rely on to, completely dominate the game. But one of the points I made when talking about the Cardinals and why I thought they were going to be the, reigning and repeating NL Central champions was, that's kind of been their model over the past few years. But they've had an amazing defense to work with for, balls in play. I feel like their team, BABIP against, is usually 280 or 275. In this month plus of baseball, the Cardinals are currently have neutral defense according to Statcast. They have 0 outs above average. Normally they're over the past couple of years they've been top 5. I'm not saying that that's the main reason that the Cardinals are allowing more runs, but that does probably play a factor that they're not necessarily a top 5 defense so far this year.
I mentioned this, in my last point, but between the last 3 full seasons, in 2019, their rotation had the 8th lowest home runs per 9, which is at 1.26, which is insane. But that just speaks to how many home runs there were in 2019. In 2021, they were the 4th lowest, I believe, at 1.09. Is that what it was? Yeah, it was. They were at 1.09 last year. and that was the fourth lowest. And then 2022, they were at 0.91, which was the second lowest. And now they're at 1.41, which is among the worst in baseball. So, I mean, if you want to pinpoint a specific problem within the Cardinals' rotation, which has been the worst part of the team and a lot of the reason why we're looking at them at 10 and 22, they're giving up way too many home runs. And when Miles Michaelis just doesn't have the stuff that he used to, and he already didn't throw hard to begin with. When you have Jack Flaherty, who's back from injury, thankfully, but he doesn't have good command. He isn't throwing very hard, not like he used to. Same thing is the problem. You have Jake Woodford, who is, no disrespect to him, but he, wasn't really a major league pitcher before. So he's kind of, adjusting to big league hitting. And then who am I missing here besides Montgomery as the last one? Steven Matz. Yeah, I mean, that contract hasn't looked great so far. He has 1.74 home runs per 9, which is the second most in the staff.
Yeah, and yeah, they haven't been doing well at preventing home runs. Maybe a factor you could maybe point to is who they're facing. Although it's not a ridiculous schedule by any stretch. However, just looking at who they've lost to and who they've been swept by, because they've taken already 3 series sweeps. They've been swept by the Braves, who are doing really well, expected to be one of the best teams in baseball. And, if the Cardinals want to be a playoff contender, they're going to have to beat the good teams. However, they did take a sweep against the Braves. They took a sweep against the Dodgers, who, want,
goes without saying.
Well, yeah, obviously, over the past decade has been the best regular season baseball team in baseball. And then with the most recent one, that's probably the most alarming. They got swept by the Angels, who, obviously you're more optimistic about. However, they were hovering 500 before this stretch against the Cardinals, and they went into Busch Stadium and took all 3 from them. One
of them was very winnable too. They were leading 4-3 in the 9th inning. On, I believe it was Wednesday, and who was it? Jake Lamb hit a home run off Giovanni Gallegos, and then another one was hit later in the inning. I don't remember who it was, but it ended up being a 6-4 final.
Yeah.
I remember people were so ready to meme on the Angels because Shohei Ohtani struck out his 500th career batter, and he became the first player in the last century with 500 strikeouts and 100 home runs. And ESPN Stats and Info tweeted that and said the Angels are currently losing 4-3, and I was like, man, they were so ready.
Yeah,
they were so ready, but the Cardinals had to ruin a classic tungsten armed game.
Yeah. That's the they had the finger on the trigger for sure.
I saw someone I follow on Twitter who's an Angels fan. He got a notification on the ESPN app, highlighting an Angels win. It was like Ohtani home run plus Angels win. And it's and he was like, "Dude, stop! That's not nice."
Yeah. So the Cardinals took that sweep. They've also lost series to the Diamondbacks, despite outscoring them in a 3-game set. They've lost a series to the Brewers, which was a very important series for them early on in the year.
Yep.
They split with the Pirates, and then they've lost series also to the Mariners and the Giants. Giants was a tough one. I know they also blew a lead in that one and allowed
Sable hit a walk-off, I believe, in one of those, right?
Yeah, there was a walk-off there. A blown save in that one too. So, not the best from them. The starters have been not great, and maybe. I wonder if they have a poor win probability added specifically.
That's definitely possible. While you're looking into that, Tyler O'Neill has a 339 BABIP this year. Do you want to guess what his batting average is?
A 339 BABIP.
Yeah.
I know it's low, but I'm not sure. Is it 210?
It's 228.
Yeah.
Yeah, which the reason for that is he's struck out 34.3% of the time.
Yeah.
Which is usually among league leaders. He has a 73 weighted runs created plus and also bad defense and base running, which gives him the lowest F4 among position players on the team. There was obviously the whole Jordan Walker controversy where he got sent out of the minors. You know, he had a very hot start to the season and he's looked awesome on StatCast. He had like a 10-game hit streak to start his career. And it was one of one of the best streaks to ever start a career. But if you look beyond the streak, in the 8 games following, he was hitting 192 with a 231 slugging and a 481 OPS. He was hitting the ball very hard, but on the ground a lot. He also was playing pretty terrible defense at shortstop. So he got sent down. Alec Burleson has had his moments, but overall just hasn't looked great. If you're looking at, the guys that have been really kind of carrying this offense, it's kind of exclusively been like the, Paul Goldschmidt, obviously. Wilson Contreras has looked a lot better. He got off to a slow start, but he looks fine now. Lars Nootbaar was hurt, but, he's been all right when he's been there. Paul DeJong in a few plate appearances has been solid. The Nolan Gorman breakout, I still think is real. And then Tommy Edman's been decent. But, guys that aren't stepping up are Nato mostly. And, I'm sure a lot of people have seen, like, his Savant page and the struggles of him. But also Brendan Donovan, Dylan Carlson, guys that just have not gotten it done on a consistent basis.
Yeah. And looking deeper into the Cardinals and their pitching situation as we go back to that, they have overall the second worst win probability added for pitchers, and also the second worst bullpen win probability added for pitchers. The only team worse than them is the Oakland Athletics. So, yeah, overall and that's significant with the Cardinals bullpen because they actually have like an average ERA and a better than average FIP. So you would expect that win probability added to correlate, but because things have just not gone their way in the quote unquote clutch situations, they've been second worst in win probability added. So not a great sign. And the A's, their like bullpen win probability added is probably low because they're just bad in any situation, whereas the Cardinals have been bad in specifically clutch situations.
The Cardinals have, interestingly, the fourth highest hard hit rate in the league at 43.5%. They also have, where are they in exit velocity? They're sixth in exit velocity. So I'm imagining some problematic batted ball numbers for St. Louis.
Yeah.
They have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth highest ground ball rate in the league. That's not great. Their line drive rate is around the middle of the pack, I guess. That's not too bad. Yeah, they're. Oh, you know what?
Their offense overall has been technically above average.
Yeah, their fly ball rate has been the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the eighth lowest.
Yeah.
And I know that the Cardinals have a lot of guys that maybe shouldn't be hitting too many fly balls, like Tommy Edman is one that comes to mind.
Yeah. But to be fair to the Cardinals offense, I think they have a team 104 OPS plus. However, it was a lot better last year. It was at like 113, 114. So there are some steps to be taken, especially from players like Arenado, O'Neill, and a couple other guys. So, I would expect progression from some guys, outlooking what the Cardinals have coming up. Great time for a series against Detroit at home. So they have that. They're, on a 6-game losing streak. They have Detroit at home, who actually Detroit swept the Mets just recently. However, the Cardinals on paper should be doing all right against the Tigers.
On the pitching side, the Cardinals have the highest exit velocity against at 90.4 miles per hour. Interestingly, their launch angle is one of the lowest. So they are presumably allowing a lot of ground balls.
Probably not a lot of pop-ups, though.
Yeah, fifth highest. And, pop-ups only 3.7%, the very worst. Great call.
Yeah.
Great call.
So because hypothetically,
If you have a low launch angle, you're not hitting a lot of balls very high. Yeah, I mean, because it is average, so there is a couple things that are misleading. But yeah, lowest pop up percentage, that's not great.
right. So they got Detroit coming up. They go on the road to Wrigley, where the Cubs are on a little bit of a skid of their own. It seems like, because I remember they were significantly above 500, but now they are under 500. And then they go on the road to Boston, where who knows, maybe they'll be on a 14-game win streak or something like that, or maybe they will be on
Cardinals.
the Red Sox will be on a 14-game winning streak, or they'll be on a 5-game losing streak. You never know. So there's that, and then the Cardinals after Boston have another key matchup against Milwaukee. Those matchups are maybe even emphasized a little more, that there's less divisional matchups, because you only get 4 series to try to gain that ground, even if it's early in the season. Anything more on the Cardinals?
I mean, where do we? I mean, how? I mean, they are in a not fantastic division. No one's really pulling away with that division, other than the Pirates, I guess. They've obviously been making plenty of headlines. The Cardinals are 10 games out of the division right now, and obviously, like I mentioned, they have the worst record of the National League. Is it too early to say it's over?
That's a good question.
Because 10-22 that's pretty bad.
Yeah, 10-22 is pretty bad, and also with more playoff spots, there's a little less incentive to just really turn on, foot on the gas and take that division. I'm trying to think of reasons to say it's not over. First of all, with the Pirates, that's the team leading the division, and although they've been fun to watch, it's doubtful that they will be able to keep up the pace that they're keeping. I think they're already on a 3 or 4 game losing streak right now, despite keeping that top spot in the Central. What I'm more concerned about is the Brewers being 8 games ahead of the Cardinals. We knew the Brewers were going to be a challenge for the Cardinals. There's a reason why they won that division 2 years ago and almost made the playoffs last year. So I think I'm concerned about the Brewers being 8 games ahead. I might report back to this after the Cardinals face the Brewers again in mid-May, because if the Brewers have like a sweep of the Cardinals and the standings look similar to this, I think the Brewers are definitely the dead-on favorites, and it might be out of reach for the Cardinals at that point.
One thing that really shocks me is that St. Louis really did not address the rotation in the offseason. I think they got way too comfortable with guys like Miles Michaelis kind of overperforming last year, and Jordan Montgomery. And granted, he's been solid. But I feel like they got too comfortable in what they already had, especially because they were losing Jose Quintana, a guy that was fantastic for them down the stretch. And, I get that the injury happened, but, who knows what happens if he's still with St. Louis.
Right.
You can't say. But even then, the fact that they did not address anything, they could have gotten Carlos Rodon for a really good contract, which granted that would not look too good at this point anyway. But, I mean, they could have gotten a guy like Tyler Anderson. That guy perfectly fits what the Cardinals have.
Yeah.
That would have been a really solid pickup. I mean, they could have gotten a guy like, this is just from the free agent market. They could have gotten a guy like, Chris Bassett. They could have gotten Ross Stripling. Maybe not Jameson Taillon for the contract he got.
Right.
Michael Waka, a guy, that's a familiar face with St. Louis. I mean, there were a lot of guys. Sean Manaea, Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah.
Andrew Heaney.
Yeah, they
there were a lot of guys that they just, and to my knowledge, I don't even remember them being particularly interested in anyone either.
Yeah, no. It's interesting for sure. Like,
they could have traded for Pablo Lopez like the Twins did.
Yeah. Obviously, offense was their strength last year, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, this rotation's completely fine. Like, we're gonna be, we're definitely reliant upon Wainwright and Michaelis here.
Like, I don't think anyone's complaining about the offense or the bullpen that they went into the season with. I think a lot of people even felt confident in that. I mean, you had them as the division champions. I had them as the division champions. But, yeah, they really did not do enough to address this rotation, and I think it's very apparent with kind of the worst-case scenario playing out for every guy except for Montgomery.
Right, yeah, and it's not like they have anybody super high in the farm system ranks that could help
They
them
have
out.
Wainwright coming back this weekend, but
Yeah.
I mean, if we're how old is he now? 41.
Yeah, I think he's 41.
Yeah, I mean, when your savior in this situation is a 41-year-old, it's not great. And I'm not saying Wainwright's over the hill and done. He could still be a decent pitcher for them down the stretch. But I mean, he's kind of being put in a situation this weekend, especially in his final season, where it's like, dude, please, we're desperate.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so Cardinals, have put themselves in a rough situation. It's more than it's more than like a little first couple weeks not doing so hot. It's been over a month now, and yeah, in the cellar of the NL Central. 10 games out of first place, 8 games behind the Brewers specifically, which is probably realistically their biggest challenge in that division. So yeah, not the way they wanted to start out, and they've lost some series to good teams, but where it wasn't even competitive, and they've also lost some series to some teams they probably should have beat, like the Angels and the Giants.
Mm-hmm. One thing that are we done with the Cardinals now?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing that I forgot to mention that we should talk about, Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Coming back from Tommy John surgery in like 150 something days.
Yeah.
Pretty insane. I don't know if you've seen, but he's playing with like a full cast on his arm.
That's why. No, I haven't seen. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
like
pretty crazy.
It's like one of those things. It's like when you break your like wrist in like first grade and you get it signed by everyone.
Yeah.
Like he's playing with one of those.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the exact same, but like the size of it.
Yeah. The report said doctors cleared him to play, so obviously he's ready to go out there, and I think it's kind of presumed around the baseball world that Bryce Harper is a very tough competitor. So he really wanted to get out there. And yeah, with the Phillies particularly,
they kind of survived without him.
Yeah, we were definitely worried about them the first week of the season. I think they started the season like 1-5 or something like that. They were not putting themselves in a good position. However, they kind of recorrected. They've hovered 500. They're at 15-17, which probably not division winners, but we didn't really expect that this season. But kind of in a position where they can definitely compete for the playoffs this year. And yeah, having their best bat back, it's not only good for on the field, but it's also just, I think we talked about it before the season ever started in our predictions episode, but Bryce Harper is like one of the only guys that has been there for, more than a few years, and he's kind of, even though he started his career in Washington, he's kind of become the face of that franchise, and kind of the soul of that lineup. And we saw that in the playoffs with how great of an impact he was able to make. When he went, the rest of the Phillies offense sort of went. So it's very exciting if you're a Phillies fan to see this, and it could possibly it didn't this past week so far, but it could reignite the Phillies and get them moving in an even better direction.
Yeah, I mean it is just downright insane that he is back this soon. I'm guessing he can probably only DH.
Yeah.
Knowing him, we'll be playing the outfield in 2 weeks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean this is insane. It's great for baseball that someone like Bryce, first of all, that someone like Bryce Harper, a face of the game, someone who's been such an icon for a decade that he's played, a perennial future Hall of Famer in the making, already at almost 50 wins above replacements. A guy that, came back from injury last year and had a really good run. And then at the same time, had like an iconic postseason, one of the best moments in recent history.
Yeah.
And now this. I mean, this is something that we don't see. You know, like people have their cool postseason moments, people have their MVP seasons. No one has their coming back from Tommy John surgery in 150 days.
Yeah, no.
Even if it's just a DH, it's insane.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah, I'm. It makes me a little more curious on, what went into that. Was it a great doctor? Was it a great, recovery program that Bryce Harper, was under? Whatever it was, it worked very well, and it's fun. It makes like we know the impact that this is going to have on the lineup. We talked about it after opening weekend that, outside of Schwarber, Real Muto, and Trey Turner, the lineup did not look too intimidating. But now with Harper, it really adds a whole nother element to it, both in power and getting on base.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Seeing what he can do with basically one arm.
Yeah. He's already I haven't looked at the StatCast data for this, but in 2 games he's 3 for 7 with a double. So
yeah,
and 2 walks. So he's doing well so far.
And they were against the Dodgers too.
Yeah, against the Dodgers. So yeah, the Bryce Harper coming back, very very nice. So the last bit of a conversation we'll get into prior to our players to highlight. We found a new way of pimping any sort of baseball activity.
Yeah, Wander Franco. Brian Reynolds hit a ground ball to Wander Franco and it was a routine play. Franco fielded it. It was hit pretty hard, so Reynolds obviously wasn't too far down the line, and Franco had a lot of time to make the play. So he picked up the ball and flipped it up, caught it, and then threw it to first to get the out. It's we've never seen anything like that before. It's cool as hell.
Yeah,
I think it's dope. How hard was it hit?
I don't think it's this game.
No, it was 2 days ago.
It was 2 days ago. Okay. Yeah, it was very cool. And yeah, I mean, there's only specific occasions when you can do that, and it's when it is hit, hard like that. And I think this one was this is probably the this might have been the 103 mile per hour one. If it happened in the 7th inning.
I don't know what inning it was. I only really saw the highlight.
Yeah. So now I'm extra curious.
I mean, Brian Reynolds has what would his sprint speed be, percentile wise?
Probably not low.
No, he's 74th. Yeah, I mean that's not someone who's slow.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty that's a pretty fast guy relatively.
Mm-hmm.
All I can find is the slow motion of it and not the actual play in real time. And it's just clips of people talking about it. Imagine just
the funniest
about
thing.
it.
I think the funniest thing, and the most predictable thing was the Twitter account Baseball History Nut.
Yeah,
that was the only tweet I've seen. I haven't seeked out any tweets. I'm sure there are plenty out there, but that was the only tweet I saw on my timeline that was like, I'm all for having fun, but I don't like this from Wander Franco.
Yeah. I don't know. It's also I just don't really see it becoming that much of a trend because it was so unique that
And also, if you don't make that play, it's over.
Right. Yeah. And how often is a ball hit so hard that you can gather it, flip it, and then throw it to first? Because
it didn't even look like that type of play. When you have the ball spinning up in the air like that, it can be kind of tricky, especially when your momentum is shifting to a different direction to actually catch it.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't look that easy.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's easy to just flip a ball up and catch it with your bare hand, but when you're in motion like that, I can't imagine it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, and what also should be noted is it was not necessarily a bang play, but it was kind of close. It was kind of a close play.
Yeah, he beat him by a step and a half, maybe.
Right. Yeah. So and that was a hard hit ball. So you can only do that so often. So I don't
Yeah.
think this is going to be necessarily
or it's got to be like
trend.
a guy that's. I feel like it's weird to do it when it's like, I don't know, not to call anyone in particular out, but like if Martin Maldonado was batting,
right. Yeah.
it's like, dude, come on.
yeah.
Why don't you just walk the ball over to first at that point?
yeah.
If you're gonna do something cool.
Right. Yeah. Like you got this first percentile sprint speed
Yeah.
guy out there. He's not gonna do. It's not that impressive to throw him out like that. Yeah, but also, you're not no one's doing that with Corbin Carroll on the bases either.
That'd be awesome if they did. And
Oh
it
yeah,
worked.
if I mean that's
You would have to hit like a ball harder than O'Neal Cruz did.
yes.
That one time, he would have to have like a 125 exit velocity right to the second baseman.
Right. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
doesn't have to move at all.
Yep. Yeah. After picking the ball out from the hole in his glove, he'll
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
he'll flip it and throw it to first. I guess some candidates for this to happen to are like, I think Stanton would be a good
Yeah.
candidate.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's the king of like the 120 mile per hour ground ball.
And he's not terribly fast either.
Nope, no, not at all.
Yeah, I mean he'll hit balls hard enough. I'm thinking of candidates to do this. The first one that comes to mind is Javi Baez.
Yeah,
Like, not other than Franco, obviously. Javier Baez, I could see doing this, especially from shortstop, like taking it to another level, because Franco obviously did it from second.
right. I wonder if there's like sort of going to be an unwritten thing of like you got to be also doing hot as a player to sort of, because Franco is doing really well.
I was gonna say, like, if Baez is doing it with his like 168 average and his 80% whiff rate on sliders.
Right. Yeah. Like you kind of got to be swinging the bat too. You got to be
what my high school coach would always say is like, show me your major league contract and then do that. It's like at this level, it's like show me your double-digit year extension.
Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be Franco and Lindor.
Yeah.
Maybe Turner if he wants to.
Yeah.
But
I don't know the way he's hitting right now.
Yeah, I know. I know.
That could mean one of two things.
Yeah.
You're gonna talk about him later, or you've been watching it all year from your F4 team.
I've been watching it all year from my F4 team. That's for sure. That I can guarantee.
Yeah, that I'm certain of.
Yes.
The other one, not certain. Couldn't tell you.
He was a steal at number 13, but so far not looking like it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's interesting. I think there's it sparks conversation, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think no one's really going to surprise you with a take. There's going to be the people that are the people that don't like.
I think the best take was the one that Brian Reynolds himself had. Where he said, like, I saw it, I wasn't that impressed. Which is, I think, just such a great reaction image.
Yeah.
Like, I really wanted to. So, Chris and I this week played in a student media basketball game.
Yeah.
Chris and I we're both retired now, but both did student media at Springfield College. He did newspaper, I did television, and we had a little TV versus newspaper, friendly competition. And we had like a whole group chat where we were, talking some smack and whatnot. And I really wanted to send that and be like, me to this person's performance yesterday.
Yeah.
I saw it, wasn't impressed.
Yeah, that will be used for time and time again for sure. But yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna surprise you with the take. I think the Super 70 Sports account is gonna be a little wary of it. I think the people that work for MLB and MLB social media accounts and
we'll be firing it up.
Our generation will be like, oh, this is pretty cool. But it was cool, but I don't see it becoming a huge thing around baseball.
It was
either.
very funny because Franco homered the next day, and there were people being like, "Oh my God, you got to bench him right now!" And then people would reply with the home run, being like, "Good thing he didn't get benched."
Yeah. Yeah.
Kevin Cash had a very cool quote, where he was like, "Well, now my son's gonna want to go into the backyard and have me teach him that play, but he's not going to be able to do it because he's not Wander Franco or something like that.
That's funny.
He's like, I couldn't even teach him that because like I'm not that cool. I forget what the actual quote was. I want to try to find it. But Kevin Cash, maybe that's a surprising take on it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, okay, so his quote was, I get home and now my son JD is going to look at me and tell me to go out there and how to practice that play with him. Unfortunately, I won't be able to because I can't relate to that amount of confidence that Wander plays with. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
I don't know, I like the quote. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a cool quote.
You know, Tony La Russa would not have said that.
No. He would not have said that. Yeah, it's cool. You know, it kind of solidifies like what Kevin Cash is. He seems like a player-friendly manager. And yeah, you know, reason why he's 2-time manager of the year too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Wander Franco. So yeah, we can get into players to highlight at the moment for good and bad reasons. Where we now will get into our Friday, May 5th, 2023 edition of How About That? Who do you have for us today?
So my how about that is a guy that at first glance, you know, I don't think a lot of people really think about this. But as of right now, I don't think this will stand. But as of right now, probably the comeback player of the year, Eduardo Rodriguez from the Detroit Tigers. I mean, I think if assuming he comes back, Liam Hendricks will probably end up winning it for fair reason. But doesn't matter. Over his last 5 starts, Erod has a .52 ERA and a 2.18 FIP. He leads the American League in F4 over that span. He also leads the majors in ERA. His cutter, which is his secondary pitch, has the lowest run value among all cutters in baseball. That is -6. And 5.9 of that 6 has come in that span. So in 5 starts, Erod has basically had the best cutter of all cutters this year entirely. And that's just in 5 starts again. Among the 53 pitchers to throw at least 50 cutters in this span, Erod's cutter has the 3rd lowest average against at 111, the 3rd lowest slugging against also at 111, the 2nd lowest WOBA against at 0.99, the 7th lowest expected batting average against at 1.66, .166, the 4th lowest expected slugging against at .207, the 4th lowest expected weighted on base average against at 164, and the 4th lowest average exit velocity against at 79.9 miles per hour. The soft hit threshold is 80, and Erod's average exit velocity on his cutter is below that. During this span, Erod has 29 balls hit against him to the opposite field. That is the most in the majors. And opponents are hitting 103 on such batted balls. They are slugging 138, and they have a WOBA against of 105. Erod has been leading the Tigers' rotation pretty solidly throughout this span. He's gone out there and dominated every single time. At one point, he had a no-hitter that went into the 7th inning. And for the first time, it really feels like we're watching the $75 million pitcher that the Tigers signed.
Yeah. Eduardo Rodriguez. How about that? Yeah, the cutter working very well. Probably better than it ever did with the Red Sox.
Oh, definitely. Well, he didn't throw it that much with the Red Sox.
Yeah,
the Tigers have increased his usage for sure.
Yeah, I definitely remember him being more a four-seam and change-up guy with the Red Sox. But yeah, the cutter having a 79.9 mile per hour average exit velocity against is pretty crazy. I mean, that's the fact. Like, it's hard to get a hit when when the average exit velocity is that low against it. Mm-hmm. So for my how about that, I'm keeping it sort of Red Sox themed. I'm going with the Red Sox player. He's been kind of capturing Red Sox Nation over the past 15 games or so.
It's Connor Wong.
No, it's Jarren Duran actually.
There were like 5 different players you could have gone with.
Yeah, really.
I was ready to hear Yoshida. I was ready to hear Connor Wong.
Yeah, I'm going with Jarren Duran because he is the leader in F4 since being called up, which is pretty crazy to think about considering all the ups and downs he's had in his career with the Red Sox prior to this season. Since being called up on April 17, Duran is hitting .417 with an 1139 OPS. And since his call-up, out of 183 qualifiers, he ranks first in average, fourth in on-base percentage, fourth in OPS, and as I mentioned, he is first in FWAR. From last year to this year, his average exit velocity has gone from 89.3 miles per hour to 92.3 miles per hour. Hard hit rate has gone from 38% to 56%. His sweet spot rate has gone from 28% to 33%. Barrel rate has gone from 7.7% to 13.3%, and his line drive rate specifically has gone from 16.9% to 31.1%. That is way, way above average. League average line drive rate is usually around 25%. And when he hits line drives, he also hits it hard. 28.9% of his batted balls overall have been hard hit line drives, which is the highest rate out of 247 hitters with 25 plus batted balls since he was called up. And on those hard hit line drives, as you would guess, he has had major success. He is 12 for 13 on those batted balls with 5 doubles and a home run. And along with his amazing contact, as we mentioned, this batted ball profile looks extremely, extremely good for Jarren Duran. Also, his strikeout rate, whiff rate, and chase rate are career lows in his 3 years at the major league level, and his walk rate is a career high. So he's hitting the ball extremely hard. He's hitting a lot of line drives. The most hard hit line drives, the highest rate of hard hit line drives in baseball since his call up, and also strikeout rates low, walk rates higher. Jarren Duran getting a.
How about that?
All right, so now we go from the highs to the lows where we're talking players or subjects that have been underperforming with our Friday, May 5th, 2023 edition of.
Slightly alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
I wouldn't be surprised if we have the same guy here. This is from the Cardinals, the team we talked about earlier. It's Nolan Arenado. I think that's the most pretty obvious, slightly alarming that we could have done.
It's a slam dunk one.
Yeah, since April 17th, the same day that you used for Jarren Duran, Nolan Arenado is slashing 123, 180, 140, 321 for a -7 weighted runs created plus. He is homerless in that span. He has 1 extra base hit, which was a double, and he has 1 RBI. That is I believe, 15-game span where Nolan Arenado has driven in 1 run. His OBP, slugging, OPS, and weighted runs created plus all rank last among qualifiers over that span. Arenado's ground ball rate has risen by 13.7% since last year, the 6th largest year-to-year change between 2022 to 23 among the 182 qualifiers. His average exit velocity on fly balls this year is 86.5 miles per hour, and that's the first time it's dipped below 90 in his career. So he went from consistently putting up 90s to 86.5, which is a dreadful drop. Arenado, interestingly, has seen more sliders than fastballs this year, and among the 230 hitters with 300 total pitches seen at least, Arenado has seen the highest percent of sliders total. 30% of the pitches he's seen have been sliders. And he has a -2 run value and a 293 slugging against them. Additionally, he has a 192 average against four-seamers, and he is slugging .346, which is not too impressive. He has a whiff rate of 22.9% against four-seam fastballs this year, after only having a 13.3% whiff rate against them last year. So Nolan Arenado, he's not making good contact, and he's making less contact, and that is why he is my slightly alarming.
Nolan Arenado is looking
Slightly alarming.
This was one of us had to do it, so why not both of us?
Yeah.
It's because literally what happened with me is I picked a random date. It happened to be April 17th, and I looked at the weighted runs created plus leaders, and Jarren Duran was up there. And I was like, all right, so now I'll start my slightly alarming. Let's just look at this span and see who's at the bottom. And then I saw Nolan Arenado, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, I almost went with someone else because it felt too obvious that you were going to do it, but I was like, I can't risk him not doing it and then nobody talking about it.
Yes. So to add to your numbers, in my notes I mentioned the average and the OPS and him being worst in on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. Also, his expected numbers are very bad. Out of 247 hitters with 25-plus batted balls in this span, his expected batting average is 6th worst. Expected WOBA is 2nd worst, and expected slugging is also 2nd worst out of 247. You mentioned no home runs, 1 extra base hit, also no barrels from Nolan Arenado in his last 15 games.
That feels like it goes without saying.
It kind of goes without saying, but you can barrel.
But no, that is a good thing to mention.
I think Arenado had not to get off track, but I think he had like multiple barrels in the NL wild card that went for fly ball that went for flyouts.
I believe it.
But Nolan Arenado also has a 23.8% hard hit rate in this 15-game span. That is 21st lowest out of 247, and his 84.7 mile per hour average exit velocity is the 13th lowest out of 247 in this span. Also, overall, he has a 21.6% strikeout rate, which is 3.5 percentage points above his previous career high. And overall, his chase rate is a career high 38.3%, which is in the 9th percentile in all of baseball. Nothing really going well for Nolan Arenado offensively right now. Defensively, still doing great, 97th percentile, outs above average, so I guess you can rely on that. However, with the bat, especially over the last 15 games, has really been not good. So Nolan Arenado from both of us getting A.
Slightly alarming.
Heck of a job there.
Yeah, you as well. So now we get into players and not players and subjects. We get into series to watch and day-by-day matchups. Looking at the weekend ahead. All the series, everyone that's playing tonight will be playing throughout the weekend. Just record-wise, 2 teams that are coming off a couple of rough series, who were doing well beforehand, were the Pirates and the Blue Jays. It's going to be at PNC Park. The Pirates are 20-12, coming off, I believe, a sweep where they got swept by the Rays, and then the Blue Jays are coming in 18-14. They just got swept by the Red Sox. So it's a matter of which team is going to bounce back. There's also going to be a battle for the top of the AL Central between the Guardians and the Twins. Yes, the second place team in the AL Central is below 500, but the Twins are 4 games above 500. They're going to Cleveland, trying to take down the defending AL Central champions. I think the best matchup record-wise thus far this season is the Braves and Orioles. That is a 22-10 team versus a 21-10 team.
Pirates Rays did just happen.
Pirates Rays did just happen, but like for this particular weekend.
Oh, no doubt.
Braves.
I thought you meant like for the season.
Oh yeah, no. Braves Orioles. That's going to be great. Padres Dodgers. That's another great matchup. Always good to see them. That's a playoff rematch, and another playoff rematch from last year is Mariners Astros at T-Mobile Park. So a lot of good series to watch here.
Yeah.
At this point in the season, I think there's a little separation of like where teams are at and where teams are going. But still, a lot of really good series to watch, and a lot of competitiveness should be going on this weekend. What do you got for the day-by-day matchups?
So today on Friday, the Cubs are kicking off early, of course, because it's a Wrigley weekend series. So, they're playing a Friday 2:20 game, and it's a good matchup. Edward Cabrera versus Justin Steele in Marlins Cubs. That's a fun one on both sides. You're going to have Chris Bassett and Rich Hill in Blue Jays Pirates. Lance Lynn versus Hunter Green in White Sox Reds in Cincinnati. So Yankees Rays, it's Johnny Brito versus Yanni Chirinos, a.k.a. a bullpen game for the Rays. They're kind of a make or break series from the Yankees already this season. They squeaked out a series win against Cleveland, maybe one that some would say they shouldn't have won, but nonetheless they did it. As far as namesake, this is a fun one. Chris Sale versus Zach Wheeler in Red Sox Phillies in Philadelphia. Yep. Antonio Sensatella versus Kodai Senga in Rockies Mets. Bailey Ober versus Peyton Battenfield in Twins Guardians. Battenfield's looked interesting this year. Max Fried will be facing the Orioles for the Braves at Truist Park. Kyle Muller versus Brad Keller in A's Royals. Matt Boyd versus Jordan Montgomery, the one good Cardinals starter in Tigers Cardinals. Tyler Anderson will be facing the Rangers tonight for the Angels at the Big A. Josiah Gray and Merrill Kelly will face each other in Nats Diamondbacks. Clayton Kershaw and Yu Darvish will face each other in Dodgers Padres. It's like a 2014 classic, but also a 2023 classic because both pitchers are still good. Corbin Burns and Sean Manaea will face each other in Brewers Giants. And matchup of the night comes from Astros Mariners. It's Christian Javier versus Luis Castillo.
Yeah.
The Mariners will be debuting their City Connect jerseys tonight. I think they couldn't have picked a better game to do so. Friday night against the Astros, Luis Castillo on the mound.
Yeah.
They're going to need that energy tonight.
Not that I have the statistical analysis behind this, but like Javier and Castillo have been two of the best pitchers since like August of last year.
Yeah. On Saturday, you will have Adam Wainwright making his return for the Cardinals against the Tigers against Spencer Turnbull. That'll be in St. Louis. You will have Drew Smyly facing the Marlins for the Cubs at Wrigley. Austin Gomber and Tyler McGill will face each other in Rockies Mets. That's at Citi Field. Domingo Germán versus Drew Rasmussen in Yankees Rays. Germán is like very hit or miss in his starts. Rasmussen's been solid this year. Sonny Gray and Logan Allen will face each other in Twins Guardians. Jose Barrios and Johan Oviedo will face each other in Blue Jays Pirates. Nick Lodolo will face the White Sox for the Reds. In GABP, he's trying to turn the start to his season around. Brady Singer will face the A's for the Royals in Kauffman. Corey Kluber and Bailey Falter will face each other in Red Sox Phillies. Kyle Bradish and Spencer Strider will face each other in Orioles Braves at Truist. Alex Cobb will face the Brewers for the Giants in San Francisco. Mackenzie Gore will be facing the Diamondbacks for the Nationals. That's a fun one. Reed Detmers will face the Rangers for the Angels. The Rangers did not announce any of their starters this weekend at the Big A. And as I mentioned to Chris privately last night, Marco Gonzalez is pitching on Saturday against the Astros. The Astros have yet to announce their starter. And matchup of the night, I guess, comes from Dodgers Padres. It's Dustin May versus Blake Snell.
Yeah.
Not the most fun. I mean, fun for meme's sake, but
yeah,
I don't think anyone's tuning in to watch the pitchers duel there as of right now. Maybe it could be, but both pitchers have struggled this season.
Yeah. Going back to the Friday match of the night, Christian Javier, 3rd in ERA since the start of September last year, and Luis Castillo, 8th in ERA since the start of September, and also 6th in FWAR. And that doesn't even bring up their amazing postseason performances, so shout out to them. So
on Sunday, it'll be Tyler Wells versus Bryce Elder, two guys with interesting StatCast numbers in Orioles Braves. Roansy Contreras versus Yusei Kikuchi in Blue Jays Pirates at PNC. Tanner Houck and Taijuan Walker will face each other in Red Sox Phillies at Citizens Bank Park. Ryan Feldner will face the Mets for the Rockies. Joe Ryan and Cal Quantrill will face each other in Twins Guardians. Garrett Cole will face the Rays on Sunday. The Rays have yet to announce their starter. Mason Miller, who looked awesome in his last start, took a no-hitter into the 8th and then got taken out against Ryan Yarbrough for the Royals. Steven Matz will be facing the Tigers for the Cardinals. Sandy Alcantara and Hayden Wesneski will face each other in Marlins Cubs. That's once again at Wrigley, and I accidentally just closed out of the screen. Okay, there we go. Bryce Miller will face the Astros for the Mariners. He also looked awesome his last time out. That was his Major League debut. Michael Kopech will be facing the Reds for the White Sox. And matchup of the night does indeed come from the Sunday Night Baseball game. Once again, Dodgers-Padres. It's going to be Julio Urias versus Joe Musgrove.
Yeah. I don't think they directly faced each other in the postseason last year, but they were both. I think they were both two near top of the rotation guys.
Yeah.
Good to see Musgrove back out there after his injury on that weird freak injury he had that resulted in like a fractured foot or something.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see that. That whole Padres-Dodgers series should be fun, especially considering I know 3 very good pitching matchups there.
Yeah.
All right, so that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch our digital content, go over to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio, and I think we'll get those shorts back up and running, after all these finals and this magazine that I'm doing ends and gets distributed. So look forward to more digital content from Above Replacement Radio coming soon. Along with that, go to the Apple Podcasts and Spotify streams if you haven't already, and follow or subscribe to those. They are called Above Replacement Radio. Also follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Current, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.